Do you see what Sonic is doing in this cutscene? Yeah, that's what a rebel would do. Basically, everything that Sonic is doing in this cutscene, we can do ourselves. So yeah, no spin dashing and no homing attack. Why these moves specifically? Because back in the original Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic couldn't use these moves there either. Neither of these two options are really needed to fight Chaos Zero at all, so just a few jumps like we're playing as Mario, and boom, we're basically done with the first boss. And before too long after that, we have to do our first action stage, Emerald Coast. It's a tutorial level, so nothing here really demands you do anything out of the ordinary at all. It's just a straight shot from start to finish. We rescue Tails, head to the Mystic Ruins, and then challenge the Egg Hornet, the second boss in the game. Ordinarily, this is a fight where you just spam the homing attack and beat the boss in a single cycle. Of course, in this challenge we can't necessarily do that, though that doesn't make this boss fight challenging, or interesting, or even fun.
Well, that wasn't so hard.
Heck, Sonic agrees with me. Regardless, plot happens, and that leads us to Windy Valley. Much like Emerald Coast, this level is unremarkable. At the very least though, we can appreciate some very good music from this game. It just screams freedom. I know this challenge so far hasn't been very engaging, but it's around now we finally start to really feel the rules of this run. If you played this game before, you know by now that we have to get a power-up for the Lightspeed Dash. Now if the Spin Dash was allowed, I could very well skip this power-up, but that would be very unwise for a reason we'll see much later in this challenge. If the name Red Mountain rings a bell, you likely already know. For now though, I suck it up and grab the power-up. It is true that we can't spin dash, but technically speaking, I'm not using my spin dash here. Sonic is spinning, not dashing, and spinning is something he could have done as early as Sonic the Hedgehog 1. So yeah, there's your technicality for this video. We're now able to reach Casinopolis, and this is the first level which is actually affected by the fact that we can't use our spin dash or our homing attack. The objective here is to accumulate and cash in 400 rings to get the next Chaos Emerald, but I'm so bad at Sonic Spinball that I ended up going into the garbage chute. If this is the game's way of calling me out for smelling bad, it's losing its touch. Anyway, this is really funny to me, but you can't actually make it up this incline without using your spin dash or your homing attack. The incline is actually so steep that Sonic cannot physically run up it, so you have to awkwardly jump up against the incline to escape. Technically, this could never really be an issue if you're not bad at pinball like I am, but I think it was fun to mention this. That aside, there really isn't much to this level at all. Divine keys fall out of the sky, more plot happens, we return to that old game show from Nick Games and Sports. Yeah, how many of my viewers are 90s kids that remember Legends of the Hidden Temple? That was a fun show. Anyway, next level is Ice Cap. The hardest part of this level was jumping from icicle to icicle. Depth perception never was really my forte. Beyond that, the level is short, and half of it is just snowboarding downhill, though that is something I wanted to skip. But, well, as I phased through the wall, I actually lost where the mountain was. More plot happens, and now we have to fight Knuckles.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
Yes, this does look ridiculous. And now for the first boss fight that feels actually impacted by the fact that we can't move very quickly, Chaos 4. Yeah, because we can't move very fast, while Chaos literally can swim in the water, it does feel kind of like a chore to get to him whenever we want to attack him. At least, whatever that may be. Now, I think I'm attacking Chaos 4, but the game says I'm not, so what am I supposed to do? Nonetheless, there are plenty of rings, and jumping is still a very versatile tool all the same, even if we can't homing attack. I did die to this boss, but that's because I take not homing attacking very seriously. And now Sky Chase, which for the sake of this challenge we're skipping because it's not impacted at all. Now we encounter Amy, more plot, and now Twinkle Park. Progressing through this level is basically as normal up until after the roller coaster. It's actually very important that we don't travel through the chimney. If we do that, we'll be forced to spin dash because of the pins that we had to bowl through. Instead, what we have to do is travel backwards from where we got off the roller coaster and land on this platform that's below. It took me a few attempts because, like I said before, depth perception really isn't my forte, except here's more like a blind jump. But after we make it and we find a checkpoint nearby, we're only a few relatively precise jumps away from reaching the goal. By the way, if at this point you fall off, you're gonna have to let yourself die, because otherwise you are forced to spin dash to continue through the level. Otherwise, this should be pretty smooth sailing. We've now lost the plot, but we found ourselves an ID card, which means Speed Highway is up next. I'd say all around this level's pretty tame, but without the homing attack or the spin dash, you really can't explore this area very much either. Like, trying to take some routes where you need the homing attack to travel across safely could get you killed. There's also these cranes where you run into them and they force you to roll into a ball, but these really don't count as a spin dash in my opinion, because when you emerge out of the crane, you're not spinning anymore, you're running on your feet. And good thing too, because I really can't find any way to skip these cranes regardless. A few quick trips downtown, and that's one more level out of the way. We found the plot again, but what's more important right now is that we have to travel to Red Mountain. And before actually entering the area, we have to pick up the power-up for the Ancient Light. This attack requires using the spin dash to be able to activate. But, like I said before, we ain't dashing now, are we? We spin, build the power, let it rip, and now we're on to level 7. And it's right now the challenge that this run becomes actually difficult. And funny enough, I get the feeling that this game is getting tired of me fooling around in it. It keeps trying to rush me, but man, I'm going on an adventure. Let me have my fun. Anyway, as you can see here, the light speed attack is not reliable against enemies at all. Sometimes it'll drop you right in the middle of a bottomless pit and you're just dead to rights. Which is just dandy when at least once in this level, you're required to use it for that exact purpose. And it only barely works too. After some more depth perception issues, we reach the volcano's entrance. The lava can be dangerous, but there's plenty of shields to keep your guard up. Just don't be miserly like me and avoid using your light speed attacks because they might save you your rings. We say goodbye to the fugitives condemned to burning in hell, and say goodbye to Red Mountain as well. Leading into Sky Chase Act 2, which once again I am skipping because it has nothing to do with this challenge at all. Instead, let's focus on level 8, the Sky Deck. Safe to say everyone's favorite level in this game. There are lots of areas which are made easier by having the homing attack, but even without it, there's also a lot of different elevations you can use to move around this place. And good thing too, because oftentimes we have to take the low road. Our lack of speed also makes us very vulnerable to enemy fire, so moving quickly is often preferred, if only it was more possible. Imagine having no homing attack, no spin dash, and getting killed by boost panels. The story of my life. But then we reach the third part of Sky Deck, and this is where the level becomes awkward. Often we're fighting against the tip of the ship, which more often than not is required to make progress because we can't jump very far, and all the same, it can set us back a lot. Pro tip in life, never trust guardrails, they don't work. But shortly afterwards, we finish Sky Deck. Some more plot happens, and we get to fight a robot. Though the fight itself isn't much different from the fight with Knuckles. If anything, this is probably easier because he can't defend himself very well. And we would have scrapped this hunk-a-junk if not for that meddling girl. But hey, okay Amy. Next on the to-do list is reverting this ship back to its original form, and then challenging Chaos 6. And like other boss fights up to now, the fact that we can't use our spin dash or homing attack really doesn't impact our strategy here at all. A bit more plot later, and now we have to begin the next level, and totally not a precursor to a future Sonic game, Lost World. The first half of this level is actually really easy. At least up to the water room, but even this area really wasn't so bad. Yeah, the jumps are decently far apart, but Sonic can generally jump far enough across to not have to worry about falling off. We were then able to press all the switches and move on to Act 2. And I hate to say it, it's here in Act 2 that once again we have to use our light speed dash. Yeah, I'm keeping track of how few times we have to use the light speed dash because we technically have to use the spin dash to actually use it, but if I can, I want to minimize my usage of this move. And here, we have to use the move only once. The game intends for you to use it again near the end of the level, but this instance can be avoided if you find the exit and you jump through it from a higher point. Though I'll admit, it did take me longer than I'd be willing to admit. Yeah, keep this in mind. It took me longer to beat Lost World than it took for you to watch this whole freaking video. Regardless of this game trying to gaslight me and how much time I really spent here. We find this mural, but more importantly, we just now realize we're trapped in this labyrinth and there's no easy way out, so we're rescued by the plot. And we shortly afterwards follow Eggman to Final Egg, the last level in Sonic's story. Which at first feels like it wanted to present itself as a victory lap with all the steep inclines that are then thwarted by the fact that there are so many boost panels around here too. But then we reach Act 2 and the level becomes hard. Not only is the temptation to use our homing attack or light speed attack really high here, but there's also some legitimately really dangerous jumps we have to try making past all these hammer obstacles in our way. And since these platforms are so small, we cannot build up speed very well at all either. Sometimes you have to build up speed by jumping into the air and then using the extra momentum to propel us forward far enough to make the jumps. It is downright scary. And yet the hardest part about this challenge is probably the camera. Seriously, if I assigned the camera to be manual specifically because I was struggling with the auto camera, don't revert it back to auto just because I lost a life. This leads us to the final obstacle though, where there's a bunch of robots and there's one trail of range that leads us straight to the goal. And you know, I could totally just use the light speed dash and clear this level, but I did remember seeing this from Cherry 5. The beams leading to the goal do have collision, and up to now, I was able to do this whole level without using the light speed dash too. So way to end this level on a high note. I went ahead and tried to carefully meander across this beam without having to fall off, which is especially tricky for Sonic Adventure because in this game you can't grab on ledges. And sure enough, I managed to do it. It really helped, by the way, that there was a checkpoint literally right before this area. And before you ask, no, Cherry 5 was not my inspiration to try this challenge. Actually, I was inspired by a lot of different content creators. Cherry 5, Challenger Jaku, MSC, D-Pad Gamer, and at that point I just figured, I want to try a challenge like this too. And so far, I have to say, it's been a lot of fun. Maybe I'll try other challenges in other video games too. Or maybe more challenges in this game, like Tails or Amy's story without jumping, or Knuckles' story without gliding. I don't know, if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments down below. Anyways, I know y'all are just dying to see me try fighting the Egg Viper, because without the homing attack, how could you possibly reach Eggman? After the first hit, he's actually pretty far away, and trying to jump after him oftentimes leads you to die. Well, wouldn't you know it, you really don't need the homing attack here at all. Just jump on what you would try to homing attack against, and from there hold forward. You'll hit every single segment one after the other, and you'll hit Eggman at the very end of it all. Yeah, Sonic just so happens to get just enough height and distance that as long as you land the first hit, this is still an autopilot basically. And everything else in this boss fight is basically the same. And after one more failed kamikaze, Sonic's story has been completed without using the homing attack or the spin dash.
Hey, I'll play with you some other time.